Welcome to the Kent Lapp Podcast.
You did mention the news cycle. So does it happen sometimes where something hits the news and it becomes a big issue in America to such extent that Congress then moves to enact a law based on everyone talking about this particular issue, whatever it may be? That does happen, can happen?
That does happen, can happen. I would argue from experience that it rarely manifests itself in something that actually resolved the problem. What often happens more than not is that members of Congress will introduce a bill that is either never going to see the light of day or isn't going to actually pass both either one chamber or both chambers. So a lot of what can look like a member of Congress doing their job is they can say, "Hey, I introduced this legislation."
Based on the news, maybe?
Based on the news.
Say, okay.
Yeah. A good example of that was back in, if you remember, 2015, shortly after the Paris terror attacks. This is going back a little ways, but it's seared in my memory. After the Paris attacks in 2015, kind of anti-immigrant sentiment spiked.
Yeah.
It was particularly it was in the fall. And members of Congress, then a GOP-run House, introduced, I think, what was called the SAFE Act, basically, which did a number of different things. But the short of it was going to more or less bring our even the refugee program to a screeching halt. It didn't say we're canceling the refugee program, but in practice, that's what it does. I would argue on content, it was an extreme overreaction. It's more or less what President Trump has tried to do in recent months and years through executive order and the authority of the administration. But the House got together, introduced the SAFE Act, which was terrible law, but they passed it. House chamber. Never stood a chance of passing the Senate. Didn't matter. They could go back to their districts and say, "Hey, we want to make you more secure. This is what we did. We've passed this bill." It'll never become law. Didn't stand a chance. It's not designed to actually get across to the president's desk, but it looks good for your constituency.